Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will create some advanced React Native animations. I was inspired by translateY. I hope that the name, I pronounced it correctly. And he built this amazing carousel animation. And I'll show you my way of doing it in React Native by using the FlatList and Animated API. As you can see, there are multiple types of animations going on the screen. We have this ticker from top left corner. We have the parallax effect applied for each slide text. We have a pagination with an indicator that's also moving. We have a circle in the background that's also scaling in and out based on the active slide. So lots of animations are going on the screen. Before jumping into VS Code, I would like to thank you all for supporting this channel, for subscribing to it, liking my videos, and sharing it with friends on social media. And to Piotr and Tamas for buying me a coffee and supporting me. And by the way, if you'd like to support this channel and you like my work, the link to buy me a coffee is down in the description. So thank you all once again. And now we can play the intro and jump straight into VS Code and start coding these beautiful carousel animations. Alrighty guys, so I'm here in VS Code. I already created a project using Expo and I have some components here rendered on the screen. Let me start with the data. So let me go to the data itself, and we have a collection of items. Each one will have a type, image URI, a heading, description, key, and color. So this is the data that we'll be working with. And inside the app.js, in the main render method, I have a FlatList plus the logo, so the FlatList here plus the logo and the pagination here. And for the FlatList, I'm using the data that I've presented earlier. I'm rendering an item, this component, and the item, it's basically a view containing an image and another view that contains the heading and the description. This one here from the bottom plus the image. And for the pagination component, I have a view and I'm iterating over the data to get the item key, and I'm applying some styles plus the color that was defined in the data and some minimal styling here. If you're wondering what this does, is basically modifying the transform origin of the container for this logo here, because I would like to rotate it from this point down below here and not from the center. And I'm shifting with minus and then I'm going back to the center. What I would like to do now is to start with the slider itself. So the slider, it has pagination enabled, and we have this effect straight out of the box because the item has width 100, like the width of the item is 100%, so the width of the screen. And I'm applying the horizontal movement here. So now that we went through what we have what we had initially, what we need to do now is to create here a constant for the animation. So I'll call it scroll X, and it's gonna be a React use ref and a new animated value starting from 0, get the current value. And here in the FlatList, I would like to modify the scroll X based on the position, right? So I'm adding an event listener. So on scroll, this is gonna be an animated event, and this animated event I'll get from native event, the content offset, I'll get the X and assign it to the scroll X. And I'll use the native driver for it. And now this is throwing me an error because I'm using an animated event, but this flat list is not an animated component. So I'll do animated dot. And to get the scroll event at 60 FPS, we need to apply a scroll event throttle of 16 here. And now in the item, let me pass the index and also the scroll X that we've just mapped to the scroll event here. And inside the item, I would like to start with scaling the image. So let me create the input range here. So input range, it's gonna be, first let me grab the index and also the scroll X. We need the index because we would create a different input range based on for each slide basically. So this will have an index -1 multiplied with index multiplied with and index +1 multiplied with width. So previous slide, current slide, and next slide, and this input range will be created for each particular item. And we would like to scale it, so let's create the scale and we'll interpolate scroll X, and we'll have the input range defined here and the output range. It's gonna be 0, 1, and 0. So only when the current index is visible, we would like to have a scale of 1, otherwise it's 0. And let me convert the image into an animated image. So animated image. And for these styles, let me apply a transform scale. And now when we move the mouse, when we move the slides, we got this effect applied to the image. And now let's create the parallax effect for the text. And for that, we would like to slow down the heading text. Basically, the slowing down. I'll just show you here. So I'll do translate X heading. It's a scroll X, interpolate, and input range is gonna be the same, but the output range is gonna be width multiplied with 0.2, and then I'll say 0, and then minus width multiplied with 0.2. And let me apply it to the heading. So convert both of them because we'll use them anyhow. So convert them into an animated view, and here in the styles, let me apply a transform and translate X. It's gonna be the heading. So now, because the initial movement will be this item will be moved by a width, I'm actually slowing down the movement. So it's gonna be, instead of width, it's gonna be only 20% of the width. And now if I'm moving the slides, you see that those are moving differently compared to the initial one. So if I'm also applying a different translate to the description here, but instead of 0.2, I'm moving it 0.6 and description here. So the description will have a transform translate X of the one defined here. You'll see that this will move even faster. So not to create any confusion, but this one, the right hand side, it's actually when you're moving to the left, and the left hand side it's when you're moving to the right. It's kind of vice versa because of the scrolling mechanism, I would say. So right hand side it's when you go like this, right, when you display the next item and so on. And I would also like to apply an opacity here when we move it. So right about here I would like to have it 0. So in this case we cannot move it index -1, so we will need to create a different input range. So input range opacity, and instead of 1 I'll say 0.5, maybe 0.3, let's say. And with this input range I'll create an opacity, and I'll still interpolate the scroll X, interpolate, and input range, it's gonna be input range opacity, and the output range is gonna be 0, 1, and 0. And if I'll apply it to the text. So here I'll have opacity, and down here I'll have opacity. Now this, instead of interpolating it from full width, I'm saying when you are in the middle of the animation, you need to be opacity or maybe 0.3, so a 30% movement. I would like to have opacity 0. So this will speed up the opacity. So this will create this pretty effect. Okay. Now let's move on and create the ticker component, and I'll start here above the item. And before going, I'll start with the ticker, and the ticker will also receive the scroll X. And here we'll return a view and apply a style of ticker container. And inside this, I would like to have another view. So basically I'm trying to create a view which will have a specified height, a fixed height with overflow hidden, and inside it I'll have a larger item, right? And I'll move it, I'll apply a different offset or translateY based on the active slide. So here I'll need another view, and this view will be animated within the overflow hidden view, which has a fixed height. And here inside I'll iterate over the data, so I'll have here something. So I'll have the type and the index. Let me take another look at the data. So oops, data, we would like to display this type for each item, right? So is the type, it's correct, and then I'll return a text. Inside it I'll render the type. I'll also need to apply a key, so key is equal to index, and style ticker text. All right, and let me hit save. Nothing is visible now because I didn't render it in the application here. So let me move to the pagination and apply the ticker. So scroll X. We'll do the pagination afterwards, so don't worry about it. I would just like to create those types of animations that I was referring in the first place. So scroll X, and now those appear here, and let me position them absolute here and apply some height and do the styling. So let me remove the FlatList, and here I'll say ticker height. This is a fixed height, so 40 pixels or 40 points. And I'll have the ticker container and the ticker text, right? And let me start with the ticker text. because you'll see in a minute. Actually, let me position it absolute, position absolute, and I'll say 40 and left 20, so they'll be here on top, right? And for the ticker text, I'll apply a font size of ticker height. I'll apply also line height of ticker height, and let me transform it. So text transform uppercase, and some maybe letter spacing too, and a font weight of 800. Yeah, that looks okay to me. All right. And now the tricky part is how we display one item for each slide, right? And to do that, this ticker container should also have a fixed height of the ticker height. But before doing it, I'll show you what I mean by that. So let me apply a background color of red here, so everything is red, and also apply an overflow. Actually, yes, overflow hidden. Comment also this one, and you'll see this is the container that we're working with, right? And let's apply the animation, and then go back to the styles and apply the overflow hidden and see the effect. So let me go to the ticker. Where is the ticker? So ticker, it's here. I would like to say I would like to create the animation, and because we are outside of the flat list, we need to calculate it manually. So the input range is gonna be minus width, 0, and width, right? So previous, current, and next slide. And for this one, I would like to translate Y, this container from inside, increment it by a ticker height, right? So the translate X is gonna be scroll X, and I'll interpolate it, and input range, and then the output range, it's gonna be ticker height, so going up if I'm going like this, right? Remember, and now 0 and then minus ticker height. So if I'm converting this view now into an animated view and apply the style here, so style is gonna be transform translate Y, and hit save. Now we would like to only show the Hamlem P, for example, and when we move, you see this view, it's also moving along with the active slide, and this is creating this sort of effect. But the only missing piece from it is to have this container with overflow hidden and a fixed height, like the font size of the item. So if I'm applying the height and overflow hidden, you'll not be able to see the rest of the list, but the inner view is animated, and this is creating this sticker effect, I'll say. So if I'm removing the background, now it's more visible, and I think that we can get rid of the letter spacing here. It's useless. Okay, and another animation that's happening on the screen is the dot, or the circle from the background, which is scaling in and out with an opacity. So if I'm going up here, let's do it here. Let me create a component called circle. Also receive the scroll X event here, and I'll return a view and a style with circle styles, circle container, and inside it I would like to map over the data, so data map, but this time I would like to take the color, right? So color and then the index, because I'll apply the same color as we have for the pagination here. to the circle itself, and just render a view and apply some styles, but also don't forget about the key. So key, it's index, and style, I'll apply the styles circle and also background color of the color from here. Okay, and this circle container is gonna be absolute position, so let me use the style sheet absolute fill object. So it's absolute positioned, and each circle inside it's also going to be absolute position. So they'll be stacking on top of each other, right? And let me render this first, and let's go to the app here. And this time I would like to render it above the flat list in the tree. That's because I would like to have it rendered beneath the flat list, or to be here but under the headphone, right? So I'm scroll X. So basically this will have a lower Z index compared to the flat list itself. So that's why I need to move it above the flat list. Okay, so this circle, let me go here down in the circle container, and then we'll have also the circle, right? And for the circle I would like to, let me first actually do the width. Let me create a constant here, and I'll do circle size, it's equal to width multiplied with 0.6, so 60% of the width. Height, it's the same, and border radius, it's half of this one. Hit save, and you'll see those are like rendered here, and I would like to align them to the center and justify the content to the center as well. And for the circle, I like to position it absolute, so everything will be here in the middle of the screen. Hit save, everything will be here on the middle of the screen, and the circle will overlap with the other ones. And let me move it maybe 50%. Yeah, it's looking good so far. And now let's go to the animation. So we would like to apply a different animation, right, to the circle, and for example, this one is a purple. We would like to display the purple circle. So to the component circle here, we cannot do the interpolation here, right? So above, because we also need to have the index of the, we would like to create the same effect that we have for the flat list. So each item, each render item has its own input range, and we would like to apply the same thing for the circle. And here inside the data, where we map through the data, we would like to create the input range. So input range, or interpolate the scroll X, right? So input range is gonna be again index -1 multiplied with the width, index multiplied with width, and index +1 multiplied with the width. And we'd like to first do the scale. So let's create a scale interpolation here. We'll interpolate using this input range and the output range. It's gonna be 0, 1, and 0. Hit save, convert this view into an animated view, and here in the styles, create a transform and use the scale that we've just created. And now this should shrink. This will create this effect, right? But notice that after a while, so right now, for example, so we are starting from the green one, And that's because the green one, if we are taking a look at the scroll, the green one is the last one. But because we didn't clamp the interpolation, what will happen is right now, based on this output range, it's gonna continue to map like the array, because this is actually saying, let me do like this. So we have 0, 1, 0, but then we'll have -1, -2, -3, and also on this on this side as well, on this side. And scale -2, for example, it's rotating it and increasing the size again. So basically scale -3, it's equal to scale 2, and so on and so forth. So that's why on the initial screen, this circle is actually scale 2, because here this is actually scale -2, I think, or -3. And in order to avoid this type of extrapolation, I would say we need to clamp it. So we need to apply extrapolate clamp, which is basically saying, hey, stop here, do not go beyond this array. And we have this type of animation happening here. And notice that we don't want to have both circle, one shrink down and one grow, right? We would like to maybe start the other circle animation right here. And to do that, we need to decrease this index here. So I would say maybe 55. So this will start the, you see, now it's almost in the middle, and now it's gonna grow the circle. And this is the expected behavior that we would like to apply. And along with it, we also wanted to have an opacity applied to it. So the same input range, and opacity in our case is 0, 1, and 0. And if I'm copy pasting this, let me apply it here. It's output range, you see, those things are happening. So now it's gonna grow, so it's creating this nice effect. And I can see that the circle opacity is too big, too high, so I'll just decrease it to 0.2, and it's looking much better. And the missing part is the pagination indicator. So let's create it. We have this pagination. So let me go to pagination. We are doing the same thing, right? We have a view inside, we iterate over the data, we show a view and another view. And the reason for that is, for example, we have this small circle, but the actual, let me go to the background container. This one has 40 pixels, so it's bigger. So it's creating this fake space that we are also taking advantage of when we have the circle movement. But let me apply here a background of red, so you'll see, and also border radius of dot size divided by 2. So you see how this is actually looking. And we will have another circle which is a sibling of this list, and we will animate it based on the active slide. So let me remove this. And if I'm going to the pagination again, here inside the view we will have the item list, right? But I would like to have an animated view here, which is the sibling, right? We would like to animate it, right? So we'll have a style let me see if I have the style here. So not really. So let me create it. So styles dot pagination indicator, right? And let me get the scroll X here. So scroll X and see if I'm using it. No, I don't have it. So copy paste it. And in pagination, here I like to interpolate it differently, right? Because we need to calculate exactly how much to move. But this is simple, right? Because we did it already. So input range, it's minus width 0 and then width, right? And we will have a translate X, which is a scroll X interpolate, and we'll use the input range. And the output range for this time, it's gonna be let me see, what is the dot size? Okay, it's dot size. This is the problem with not having the script on your window here. I have only the so I like to go, so it's actually minus dot size, right? Dot size in 0, and apply this to the animated view. And we'll have here transform and then translate. And let's see, the pagination indicator, we need to pagination. So here, let me create it. So we have the same style as we have for the dot itself, but we'll use the full width. So dot size, height, dot size, and border radius of dot size divided by 2, right? And this time I would like to have a border width of 2 and a border color of CCC. It's too hard. DDD. Yeah, that's working, right? And now, because if I'm going back to the pagination, I'm interpolating from previous, current slide, and next slide. I'm saying, hey, you should move a minus or a plus dot size. So because this is a sibling, so without this translation, let me comment it out and say a background color red, right? Initially it's gonna be outside, and because I'm saying, hey, you should move based on the scroll X position, immediately it knows where to position itself, because it's a sibling of those items, and it has the same width and height basically. So if I'm applying this you'll see that this is not let me see. Okay, so this is offset with 1, so I will need to do, so let me see if this will work. So left, it's gonna be 0, and let me see the pagination. Let me debug it, why not? Background color red. Okay, so this one, you see, the problem was that I didn't actually apply the position absolute. So if I thought that I added it, but it seems that not. So I'm applying a position absolute, and it's gonna start from left 0, which is the default one. I don't need it actually. So it's gonna align with the first item because it has the same width and height. And now when I'm moving it, it should properly display the pagination. Yes. So this is how we can also play around with, for example, the description here. So if you'd like to be more like this one, can be like 0.1, and we will have an even more animation going on here, and also this can be 0.7, and we'll have even more movement on the screen. That was it, guys. Thank you so much for staying with me so long. I hope that this wasn't a long tutorial for you, and it was pretty easy to follow. If you have any comments or any issues with it, please leave one down here in the comment section. I'll be more than pleased to help you out. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button. See you in the next video. Thank you so much, guys.